Daytona International Speedway, home of the Rolex, 24 hours to 63rd running, 61 cars, 12 GTP, got LMP2, GTD Pro, and 22 cars in GTD, plus plenty of storylines. Will we see a repeat winner? Will we see another photo finish last lap pass? Kobe, Jess, Josh, Joe are all here from the Grid Network. Distinguished guests, welcome to our pre-race show for the 63rd running of the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona International Raceway. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Santiago. Big special edition of Grid Live Pre-Race. With me today, we have Kobe Lambeth from Grid Tonight, Joshua Burst from JB Motorsports, and Jess Ball from Just Games 95 and JB Motorsports as well. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network. You can invest in the Grid Network, link in the video description. Your contribution each and every month help us stay on the air, bring more coverage to you, more folks to the racetrack as well. So we're very excited to have everyone tuning in. And of course, Patreon, you could do a super chat. We'll send a big thank you to you. And if we see the super chat on the air, we'll thank you as well. So we got plenty to talk about in today's show. Very excited to have everyone. And of course, share your questions, comments, and opinions with us on the air because we got a lot to talk about. Let's get started with what made our concern with this race, the endurance classes. And of course, you got to start with one of the best classes of all time, GTP. And overall, it is going to be a very exciting race. Let's get started with the 63rd run of the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Once again, we have a stacked field of 61 cars in this race. So it's going to be a packed racetrack with all 61 cars running. Hopefully we'll have some good, clean racing. And one of the big things, 12 cars in GTP. LMP2 also has 12 cars, 15 GTD Pro, and 22 in GTD. Start with GTP class. Let's get started there. And of course, the big thing everybody's going to be following is the overall winner. And you're looking at the defending overall winner of this race, the number 7 Penske Porsche Motorsports prototype. Brand new driver lineup this year, though. You have Felipe Nasser being the only winner from last year in that driver lineup. Matt Campbell has moved over to the sister car in the number 6 Porsche. The team parted way with Dane Cameron, who moved over to LMP2 class with AO Racing. Two-time Indianapolis 500 winner Joseph Newgarden is not in the race this year. Nasser's new co-drivers, Nick Tandy and Lawrence Van Doorn. The number 7 is one of the 3 cars in GTP class to utilize 3 drivers instead of 4. The defending race winning car qualified 3rd, as you see there on the first page. And of course, we'll have the full lineup on display for you throughout the show. Now, Jess, starting with you, do you like the number 7 Porsche chances of going back-to-back in the Rolex 24 and defending the season-long GTP title with a new-looking lineup?
Well, I think they're going to be under some huge pressure to win the GTP title this year at IMSA. 5 different manufacturers, and it's not going to stop them having a completely different driver lineup. In Formula One, we've seen 6 rookies making their full season debut this year, which I think is absolutely huge. So I think them having a big change in the driver lineup, I think is going to be quite good for them. But Porsche are a big name in motorsports industry. If they mess up in Daytona, it's going to be a huge issue. And as tradition dictates, if you win Daytona, you're more than likely going to have a great IMSA season overall and win the championship title, which is what Porsche did last season. We know the BMW 24 was looking very strong, but Porsche are going to hope that things go on for them after one of the BMWs had a mechanical issue towards the middle of qualifying, which caused a red flag. And I know the 93 did a fantastic job in qualifying to finish second, so they could be a dark horse as well. So Porsche are brave to make those changes to driver lineup, but I hope that I'm proven wrong and they can have a very good season this year.
Yeah, definitely, Jess. Looking at the changes that we've seen with Porsche Penske Motorsport, it's really interesting. You know, moving on from Dane Cameron and the fashion that they did, and then deciding to slide Nick Tandy over in his car, Felipe Nasser, for the full season. Yeah, I think they have a really good, strong driver lineup here with Nazir, Tandy, and then Lawrence Van Thor coming in for the endurance races. And I was actually reading an article on SportsCar 365 with comments from the managing director of this Porsche GTP project. Yeah, and he was basically saying, that with a 3-driver lineup that they have this year, that the drivers can get into their rhythm and it can be more efficient because in the World Endurance Championship, 24 Hours of Le Mans, you have 3 drivers. IMSA, they allow 4 drivers for the 24-hour race. So it's no different than, racing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in terms of, the driver rotations and all of that. But I think I know we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the show, but 4 drivers offers more flexibility in the driver lineup because sometimes we've seen drivers fall ill during the race. And then if this driver can't go because he's not feeling well, then you can just, pop this one back in. But if you have a 3-driver lineup and someone's sick, then you're going to be asking the 2 other drivers to carry a lot more of a heavier load. But yeah, I think that the 7 Porsche has a good chance of going back to back. But I think it's going to be a lot closer this year at the front of the field than it was last year. And in regards to the season-long championship, who knows? Way too early at this point. But like you were saying, just if you can start off the year winning a Rolex 24 at Daytona, is usually a good sign of the year ahead.
I'm really looking forward to this one. I really am. We saw across practice, we saw going in now with qualifying how good the Porsche is, but how good also the BMW's become. Yeah, we know the 25s had problems, but that 24 is strong. I'm keeping everything crossed, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything that we are going to finally have that proper battle for Porsche and BMW that we've been sort of tantalizing the last couple of seasons. Just running off, starting there with Felipe Nasr. He got the lap time in just at the end. He should have been on pole, but it just cost him at the end. But I don't know. I think it was rain coming in, a slight damp track. It's going to be a bit too close this early on in the stage. Bright sunshine at the moment. I think 15 hours into the race is when it'll really start to spice up. And then we'll see with 9 to go exactly who's got the good endurance car this season.
It's going to be really interesting to see who has the great endurance car this season and this race. So many unpredictable factors. Very excited to see the potential. We encourage everyone comment in the chat room. Jason, the 93 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura. That's always a contender. Joshua, hello everyone. Very excited for the weekend. We know a lot of you all excited, like Adam, Day in the Life. And of course, we encourage everyone to share your question, opinions with us right here on the air. Happy to share them with our team. Now let's go back to GTP. Some other notable changes that we're going to see in GTP. The return of Meyer-Shank Racing, as was mentioned in the comments, after a year away from instant competition. They're back in 2025 with a reunion with Acura. MSR is taking over the Acura GTP operations. The team that previously fielded the Acuras, or of course Wayne Taylor Racing, they have switched over. They are now running 2 Cadillacs after Chip Ganassi Racing has exited the series. Action Express Racing also returns with the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac and Earl Bamber replacing Pippo Durrani for the full season along Jack Atkins. Now, BMW, Team Rahal Litterman Lanigan has completely overhauled its driver line in hope of a better performance year-round, and the number 63 is now being operated by Riley Motorsports after parting ways with the Iron Lynx. So, Kobe, we'll start off with you. When it comes down to everything going on, who could end up being the biggest surprise out of this group in 2025?
Honestly, Joe, I think we could see the BMW M Team RLL squad being one of the biggest surprises. They made a lot of changes over the offseason on our previous Grid Tonight shows. Me, Josh, and Matt White, we talked about this when BMW made the changes to their lineup, and we're like, wow, they're really, going all out here, and making these huge changes to try to be more competitive. And also they've confirmed they've used the Joker on their car, to make some upgrades to make this car even better. And it looks like both BMWs have been extremely fast. I know we'll talk a little bit more about the pole sitter later on in the pole winning car, but the BMW, they have some really great drivers in these 2 cars. In the 24, you got Philip Ing, Dries Van Thor, Kevin Magnussen, Raffaele Marciello. Then in the 25, you got Marco Whitman, Sheldon van der Linde, Robin Frange, and Rene Rast. all 8 of those drivers are very capable of getting the job done. And I think BMW has to be really, really excited. And when I was watching qualifying the other day on Peacock, Bobby Rahal himself, saying that he was very cautiously optimistic about how things are going, because, things are usually going wrong, with that team, but nothing had really gone wrong up until that point. So Bobby was really happy. But it was funny, right before he said that, actually right after he said that, then the number 25 BMW stopped in qualifying. So that was the first thing that really went wrong with them, all race weekend, dating all the way back to the Roar. So I think the BMW team could really surprise a lot of people. My second surprise, you just mentioned the number 63 Lamborghini being operated by Riley Motorsports now. Yeah, there have been some interesting, drama happening behind the scenes between the Iron Lynx and Lamborghini. It caused those two to part ways, but having a team like Riley Motorsports to be running this program, I think that's going to be huge for Lamborghini. Try to unlock the speed and all of that, since we know Lamborghini is not going to be a part of the full World Endurance Championship season in 2025. So this is really the only place that we're going to be seeing them, on track more often than not. And Riley, they've been in IMSA for many years. They know the ins and outs of this series. So after being with the Iron Lynx, maybe Riley Motorsports can help unlock the potential of this car. And also been reading some comments from some of the Lamborghini drivers, and they've been very impressed with what the Riley Motorsports has been able to do. And I think that they can potentially bring new ideas to the table to try to make this Lamborghini faster. I was encouraged what I saw last year by Lamborghini in the wet at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course of the Battle in the Bricks. They look really good in the wet, but this is still early days for that program. And we'll see if they can continue to improve. But I think I'm not sure if I would actually be mildly surprised if Lamborghini is in contention to win the Rolex 24. But I think Riley Motorsports will definitely give them a good run this year.
I said earlier on in the show about how I was impressed with BMW sort of swooping in and one car stopping out on the circuit, bringing out that red flag, and then the other going and take pole position. I really have got a good feeling about Meyershank Racing. I said in the commentary, they took pole position, and at one point they actually matched times, so that was fantastic. But I think Meyershank coming back into it, they've got the ARX06 car. It's looking quick. Can it do the whole 24-hour? In what has been, as you've said, Kobe, a second ago, very much now an evolution of what we've had since. But having the technology behind you in a race like this is one thing. Having the knowledge of how to win it is quite another. And that's what Meyershank Racing have got. They know how they can win this race. They did it, as you can see on the graphic right there, 23 and 22. And Wayne Taylor Racing had it in 21. So they've got the data. They've got the information. They know the go points in the race. They know when to fuel save. The night stint as well, usually in the new era, has become a bit of a go point. Cooler track temperatures as well. If we don't get any rain, that's great running. We can rack up a lot of laps. But if the rain does come, it's switch everything down to minimal and just sort of cruise around, as we saw in the Raw before the 24 sessions at the Speedway turns. They were literally almost doing all they can not to float downwards. So I've got a good feeling that Meyershank going to be up there. My top three, BMW, Meyershank, and Porsche, they're the three teams I'm going to be looking out for. I don't think the 31 V-Line is going to be in there. I had my pick at the end of qualifying, so I decided got against it as well. I don't think they've got a good enough car to get up there, despite all the brilliant stuff they did last year.
A lot of good stuff from last year's race. Quickly checking on the chat room. I encourage everyone to comment with your questions. We got a question: what time does the race start? And of course, our very own Ben Schneider, one of our colleagues here, answered that question at 1:30 on NBC and approximately 1:40 the race start. And don't forget, you're going to also have some coverage on for the international viewers, IMSA TV. So be sure to check that out as well after the program. And of course, Joshua Burst, Jess, are going to be on the watch along. Encourage everyone, link in the video description to check out their watch along. Now let's get started with LMP2, a stacked field with competitive drivers all over this field. I was just thrilled when I was seeing this field earlier today. You have last year's LMP2 class champion Tom Dillman, Nick Bull. They have split up this year. The championship winning team, PR1 Matheson Motorsports, have a new driver return as Dillman went over to Europol competition, who's venturing out on their own in 2025, while Bull is now with the number 2 car for United Autosports. Other notable names, you're looking at IndyCar, Colton Herta with CrowdStrike Racing and Sebastian Bourdais with Tower Motorsports. Formula E, Antonio Felix da Costa, the points leader, makes his Rolex 24 hours return with Inter Europol, as Pietro Fittipaldi and Callum Ilott will share the car with Pratt Miller Motorsports in LMP2's debut. And ex-Formula One driver Felipe Massa is back at Daytona with Riley Motorsport as Ferrari factory driver. And Le Mans winner Nicholas Nielsen returns to AF Course LMP2 program. Now, as we mentioned, AO Racing has former Porsche GTP factory driver Dane Cameron and IndyCar driver Christian Rasmussen in their lineup. So, Josh, when it comes to everything in LMP2, who are some of the early favorites in this class at Daytona?
Got to keep up with Zach Brown's United Autosports USA team as well. Cracking job to take pole position as well. They know how the game works now with 24-hour racing. They've been around long enough, and they did some stellar work in qualifying. TDS Racing, they always run well across both IMSA and the World Endurance Championship. They have good categories when they, of course, do their LMP2 stints at Le Mans. And I really love the LMP2 category. I think everybody does. It's machinery that is a sort of bare bones racing. It's nice, it's quick, and you see a lot of, as you've said, Joe, the Formula E, IndyCar, even some XF1 drivers getting involved because they don't want to go up to the prototype, so they're right at the top. They'll stick with LMP2, which, despite seeming to have been around forever, as Jackson Lambros told us on qualifying on Wednesday, this LMP2 car is younger than the IndyCar chassis that they currently use as well. So if anybody thinks that LMP2's had its day, somebody ought to tell IndyCar that I think that chassis very much had its day. Good luck. I think Tower Motorsports as well, they're right at the back of the LMP2 field. They didn't have a great qualifying as well. They got very unlucky. We know how good Sebastian Bourdais is at that wheel as well. Just looking down, you've got to count in as well Ben Keating, who's sort of, I don't know what he's become. He's sort of the all-star racer, isn't he? He does everything. Pole position last year at Daytona and Le Mans. Missed out narrowly in qualifying for LMP2. He very much wants to add another Rolex to his watch as well. Another Rolex watch to his wrist as well. So, yeah, I'll keep in my eye that we're going to be on for the front. But personally, I'm going for the pole sitters, United Autosports USA. They have got the best car, I think, in LMP2. And, of course, in this category, it's all about setups that make the difference.
I think that's a really good shout, Josh, the P1 looking like to be the favourite. But I like the LMP2s in any category in endurance racing. I do remember in Le Mans 1 year, the LMP2 car almost won the overalls because there were quite a lot of LMP1s that had a mechanical issue or had a bit of a crash. But the LMP2s always seems to be the closest in terms of the prototype. So as I'm really looking forward to that. But in terms of my pick on who I think I would expect to do well, of course, the pole sitter, but I'm keeping my eye on the number 52 as well. I wasn't expecting them to be this competitive, the PR1, and the teams have got to think not just about the pace, but they got to think about the reliability as well. It's better to have a car that is reliable than have a car maybe that is too quick, but cuts out every so often, and you lose a lot of time, which means you lose a lot of pace. For those of you that are new to IMSA, 350 points are on offer if you win Daytona as a team. There's only 30 points in it between first and second. So for some teams, it might be better finishing second due to consistency, and then they can concentrate on winning in places like Sebring or Long Beach later on down the line. But we know that the 22 and the number 2 are going to be fighting for it, definitely. I know, as Josh was saying, the pole lap was exceptional for Daniel Goldberg. 4/10 quicker than the rest of the field. Insane. I'm excited for the LMP2s, but I'm also excited. We'll go on to later. I'm really excited. My favourite class in the Daytona field, because of how close the qualifying was the GTD Pro. The GTD, sorry. That was the closest. But the LMP2, I think, is a close second, and it should be a really good race for the LMP2 class.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be a solid race for LMP2. Remember, in the last few years, we saw that epic photo finish. It was James Allen and Ben Hanley. I actually, leading up to the Rolex 24, I went on YouTube and I watched that finish over again. It was just so spectacular to see James Allen utilize the draft through NASCAR 3 and 4 to slingshot to the outside and get around. It's so amazing, considering all of the things you go through in this race. At the end of 24 hours, we have two drivers side by side and a photo finish to end the race. That's just so spectacular. But the one team that I'm going to be paying close attention to in this class is actually the number 99 prototype from AO Racing, the one in the Spike livery with PJ Hyatt, Dan Cameron, Johnny Edgar, and Christian Rasmussen. I think that this is a very, very strong driver lineup. PJ Hyatt, he started off in the GTs and then switched to prototypes, but it seems like, he's really taken to the prototype a lot better than he did the GTD Porsche that he was in. And I think that PJ is a solid driver, continuing to improve. And then he has 3 extremely fast teammates. And looking at Johnny Edgar there, he's a silver rated driver. And we know in these Pro-Am classes, you have to have you can have a platinum driver, and then you have to have your silver in there as well, to meet the requirements. And Johnny Edgar, he's one of those drivers I like to call a sneaky silver, because he's extremely fast than some of the other, gentlemen. Well, he's not a gentleman driver, but, than some of the other silvers out there. Johnny Edgar actually is the 2024 European Le Mans Series LMP2 champion. So you have a really fast driver there alongside one of the better gentleman drivers in Peter Hyatt, Christian Rasmussen, who's going to be racing full time this year in the NTT IndyCar Series with Ed Carpenter Racing. And if you're in the IndyCar Series, it tells you a lot about a driver's talent there. And then Dan Cameron, I think Dan Cameron has a lot to prove this year. He's going to be on for the season with PJ Hyatt. It's crazy. Dan Cameron was a part of that, winning lineup last year, Rolex 24, and then the GTP championship. But Porsche Penske Motorsport decided to sack him, which actually surprised a lot of people. Yeah, imagine winning the biggest race of the year and bringing home the hardware at the end of the whole season, and then they end up moving on from you. So I think Dan Cameron wants to prove to Porsche that they made a mistake to move on from him. So I think that this is a very fast lineup, very determined lineup in LMP2. Really looking forward to seeing what the Spike prototype can do.
LMP2 is going to be very competitive. In the chat room, a couple of comments we want to hit up, and we want to thank everyone for commenting. No rain in the forecast, but let's remember, this is Daytona. We have seen some surprise pop-up showers, so don't count anything out. 24 hours is a long way to go. When it comes to LMP2, they're saying that it's going to steal the show. LMP2 has been very, very popular. Now, one of our regulars is just saying Spike. And then, of course, the 43, the return of the legend, John Field.
Yeah, John Field. Yeah, he used to race in IMSA way back in the day. So so it's really interesting to see someone who hasn't raced in IMSA in a very, very long time, come back after so many years. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing John Field back in the field and responding to Leonardo's comment about Spike. Yeah, AO Racing's become one of the most popular teams. And not just IMSA and just SportsCar racing in general, because they're really connecting to the next generation of racing fans, unlike any other team that you really see out there. Because you got Spike the Dragon in LMP2, and everybody knows Rexy and GTD Pro. Rexy's is really taking off. You see a lot of Rexy merchandise. You see the little stuffed dinosaurs of Rexy, and now also the pink dinosaur Roxy. Is just really nice to see what AO Racing is doing to really connect with those next generation of fans, because we know the fan base is starting to age quite a bit, and we need to keep people interested. And what way to get the kids into racing, then make it fun.
Roxy, Spike, a lot of fun for the families that come out to the racetrack, and of course that merchandise, the dinosaur. Encourage everyone in the chat room, be sure to comment. Do you have merchandise of Spike or Roxy? Let us know. And of course, you can always share with us on social media at Grid Network TV. Again, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs, including the post-race show after the 24 hours. One of the things we're going to be talking about for sure is what happens in GTD Pro. Again, I feel like I'm just saying this over and over, but it's true. It is another stacked field with 15 cars, and picking a winner in this class might be the most difficult one than choosing the overall winner. You have Paul Miller Racing, They are back and expanded to 2 full-time cars. BMW is giving them a team and a bunch of factory drivers that are showing how serious they are about being more competitive this year. Corvette is bringing 3 cars, starting with the traditional number 3 and number 4 from Pratt Miller Motorsports. Then the one that's been getting a lot of attention, the star-studded number 91 Trackhouse by TF Sports, WeatherTech sponsor entry of Shane Van Gisbergen, Connor Zillage, Scott McLaughlin, and Ben Keating. This is a lineup that seems like if you were to get a person that has named 4 big name drivers and put them all in the car, this is probably one of those lineups you'll be thinking about in a fantasy league, but it's happening right here at Daytona. Now, since we won't see the Aston Martin Valkyrie hypercar until the Mobile 112 Hours of Sebring, the Heart of Racing team is entering the Aston Martin and GTD Pro. For the 3rd consecutive year, we have FAF Motorsports switching manufacturers again from Porsche to McLaren and now Lamborghini. Vassar Sullivan returns with a Lexus, while AO Racing and Proton Competition represents Porsche. We have more on those teams later, but let's talk about the Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustangs have improved significantly with a revamped driver lineup. Jet Speed and 75 Express are 2 teams fielding Mercedes with Dragon Speed entering the single lone Ferrari. Jess, how excited are you about the competition when it comes to this class with GTD Pro?
I think, in my opinion, both of the GTD Pro and the GTD class in general are always the closest in Daytona, Le Mans, and stuff like that. And it makes me even more excited about the amount of manufacturers coming back, the amount of teams bringing in new lineups as well. I'm excited to see how the Corvette's going to do. 3 cars, which I think is going to be pretty much insane. I think the Corvette is going to be one of my tips for the win this weekend as well. Like we just said earlier, Ben Keating, he is a mad one doing both classes. We'll touch a little bit of that later on. Excited to see what he does. Scott McLaughlin as well. He likes a Daytona, of course. There's a certain ovalness to it in some parts of the track, and we know how Scott does well in the Indy 500, where he did very well in qualifying. So I'm keeping my eye on Scott McLaughlin. It's a shame we're not going to see the Aston Martin hypercar this year, but the Aston Martin and GTD Pro is definitely going to make up for it, in my opinion. And FAF Motorsports, I really want to see if the move to Lamborghini is the right one for them, because they did Porsche and now McLaren, and I want to see if that pays off. Hopefully it pays off. And I think Proton Competition and AR Racing, I'm going to keep my eye on them closely, because obviously Porsche is a good engine in motorsport recently, so I'm just going to keep my close on them as well. But for Mustangs, what an amazing story for them to be a 1-2 in qualifying. It was just amazing.
Yeah, the GTD Pro class is just amazing in general. It's really nice to see a healthy 15-car entry list for this class. And if you thought picking a winner for the overall race winner was difficult, try picking one in GTD Pro. To be honest, I don't even know who I would pick. I'll probably just, put all 15 cars in a hat and just draw one to pick a winner, because that's just how competitive it is. It's really nice to see a strong, healthy group of cars. Like, really, any one of these 15 cars could go out there and win the GTD Pro class. It's just so amazing to see, the manufacturer support, the extremely strong driver lineups. Yeah, I'm looking through the list of drivers now in each car, and it's just so spectacular, from Corvette, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, Lexus, Porsche, Ferrari, and so on. It is so amazing to see this class continue to grow and flourish. And really happy we're looking forward to seeing how this race is going to shape up. It's really anyone's game, but we know the GT classes, they're the backbone of endurance racing, and I think that they deserve to get a lot more love and a lot more TV time. I understand, that we're going to be focusing more on the GTP class, since that's going for the overall win, but I think the GTs are going to get a lot of love in this race, because it's just amazing racing in these categories, GTD Pro or GTD, just so amazing.
The racing is always amazing when it comes to GTD Pro, and of course, this is going to be a very amazing race, the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. Now let's go into some of the comments from the chat room, a very busy chat room. We thank everyone for participating. Brother JP, hello. Good to see you again. And Leonardo upgraded the gold tooth on Rexy with a diamond tooth. So now Rexy having some dreams.
I guess Rexy's gonna have a grill next.
A grill on the grill.
It's making me hungry. Stop.
Brother JP, I'm really looking forward to the motorsport season kicking off. So are we. Grid Network, we're stacking up. We're getting ready. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our programs. Ready to see how SVG, Scotty Mac do on the same team. It's like supercars all over again, except they're on the same team. Bitter rivals, but they become good friends over the years. Both of them race in the United States. Leonardo, yeah, it's like a dream team. MoDef will definitely get an eye on them. We have a K-Mag fan here. Of course, Kevin Magnuson in there. Laura, my boyfriend is out there filming for Porsche. So having fun at Daytona. And we encourage everyone to have a good time at the Speedway as well. One of the things we all love motorsports. We want everyone to have a good time because it's such a wonderful sport and should be enjoyed by everybody. We'll focus more on GTD class as a whole in a moment, but we want to mention one of the most notable liveries, and that is the number 83, the pink and white Iron Dames Porsche. Of course, throughout the years, we've been reporting on the Iron Dames on our Women on Motorsports program right here on the Grid Network and other female drivers across various series around the world. In the last 2 seasons, we've seen the Iron Dames competition essentially be changed a little bit, with competing in the Michelin Endurance Cup races with a Lamborghini, but the car hasn't always been the best for them. After having success with the manufacturer in the past, they switched to Porsche for this year's GTD Endurance Cup program. The move makes sense because one of the big things, of course, Michelle Gattin, one of the stable drivers there, she was signing with Porsche to become a factory driver. Now Gattin will see her regular co-drivers returning with Sarah Bovey and Rahel Fry. Dorian Penn not available this year, so Garen Gard is making her Rolex 24 debut with the team. And in qualifying, Michelle Gattin, 10th fastest as the Iron Dames look to improve to finish their 6th in class finish from last year. Overall, it's going to be very exciting to see what they could do. Kobe, starting off with you when it comes to the Iron Dames, can they make some noise in this year's Rolex 24 and potentially finish higher than they did last year?
Could you imagine the scenes on Sunday afternoon at 1:40 p.m. Eastern time if we have the Iron Dames coming across to take the checkered flag to win GTD? And to be honest, I think that's a realistic possibility because they have an extremely strong driver lineup. Like you're saying, Michelle Gattin, it was a huge deal for her. We reported it on Grid tonight. For her to get a Porsche factory driver role, that's massive for her racing career. She's a really quick driver. You know, Sarah Bovey, Rahel Fry, those 3 have been together, you know, in sports car racing for a very long time, and they built amazing chemistry over the years. I know Karen Gaillard is, you know, kind of new to all of this. Looking forward to seeing what she can do. But I think the Iron Dames, you know, they have a great team behind them, with a lot of great support from Porsche. Really happy to see them moving on from the Lamborghini. For some reason, it just never seemed like a good fit with the Iron Dames and Lamborghini. But Porsche, we've seen them have success in the Porsche in the past, and I think we're going to see them pick up where they left off from their previous relationship with Porsche and continue that thrive. I think they will absolutely make noise. I think they have great potential to do better than 6th place. Maybe they could at least get on the podium in GTD. I think some people underestimate the Iron Dames, but I'm not.
I'm definitely not underestimating them. They've been looking really strong across all endurance series, and I'm going to be one of those people on Sunday evening, going to be cheering and screaming up and down in my chair if the Iron Dames win the GTD class on Sunday. It's going to be absolutely insane. Shame about Dorian Pan not being available this year, but I know she's going to be so busy. Of course, she had a rib injury last year, so of course she doesn't want to be doing too much in the motorsport season. I think our main focus, ideally for her, is going to be trying to claim that F1 Academy title. But Michelle Gattin, I'm so excited for her to see how she does in Porsche, because of course you can't always be an Iron Dames for the entirety of your life, and they even encourage the women in that team to just follow their dreams. So if that means going into a factory team, then so be it. And I really like the goals that they have at the team as well, shaped by passion, determination and excellence. They really are determined to succeed, and they never give up, and they improve all the time. And having an all-woman team in the Daytona 24-hour is just incredible. I really hope they finish harder than they did last year, because it will be amazing, not just for Daytona 24, but across women in motorsport in general.
Yeah, back that up 100% as well. And let's not forget, they won in 2021 in the LMP2 category. Then they won in 2023 in the GTD Pro category. So it stands to reason, if we're going on numbers, they won in 21, they won in 23. It's now 2025. They should win. And they're in a new class again in GTD, as they've sort of dropped down the order. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot more entertaining. I think they can certainly get up there. We've got experienced drivers in there as well, but you did talk about Karen coming in as well, 23 years old. First years in racing cars was only 2022. So only started karting 2018. Very much young blood coming through. But it's exactly what they need. It's exactly what the program is designed to do. They had it with Dorian Pan before as well. Now she's focusing on single seaters and F1 Academy with an eye for a F1 test seat in the very near future. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. And I never say don't count anybody out for winners. Certainly not the Iron Dames. We saw how close they got at Le Mans. So, yeah, I'm going to be very much optimistic that we're going to see a positive story from them come the end of the 24 hours.
A lot could happen in the 24 hours. Of course, we're going to see what all happens in the chat room. We have a couple more comments to go through. Interesting to see how similar the Mustang's balance of power is across 3 different series. Seems to be an old way to have the Mustang competitive. It's giving it great, easy, straight line speed. As you said, Kobe, they have really improved. And day in the life, I believe, talking about, would love to see the Iron Dames win GTD. So, and doing cool stuff. Hello from Ohio. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs, including the post-race show after the Rolex 24. Kobe, we still have a lot to talk about with the Rolex 24, especially some of the things that have occurred since qualifying.
Yeah, for sure, Joe. And hello from Ohio. And if you're watching live or on replay later, please let us know down in the chat. Where are you watching from? Remember, we did this pre-race show a few years ago, and we had people watching from everywhere. Someone watching us from Poland, South Africa, somewhere in Asia. It was just really crazy to see them, where everyone watching around the world is from. So please let us know what state are you watching in the United States, what country you're watching in internationally. Really excited to see where you guys are from. And now we're moving on to qualifying, and we're going to look at reverse order, starting with GTD. The number 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche took pole in GTD with Elliott Skier behind Will Skier out-qualified the number 57 Winward Racing Mercedes, the defending Rolex 24 class winners in GTD championship winning team. Last year, Winward won 4 times in the first 5 races and used consistency the rest of the year to win the title. This year, GTD is stacked with 22 cars, and it looks like we could see a competitive race. So, Josh, starting with you on this one, is Winward Racing the favorite to defend its GTD class victory, or do you see another team emerging as a top contender in the race?
Wright Motorsport did an impressive time come qualifying. They've been put straight up there. Wayne Taylor Racing, you can never count out coming into it. I think we've seen some quite interesting things from Vassar Sullivan from the Royal for the 24. But Winward Racing, of course, 8 victories in total, 2 podiums here at Daytona. 1 last year, and they had a strong race, if you remember correctly. They were least on pit stops, better on fuel strategy, better on tires as well. They've got a good, strong team behind them as well. I'm going to say yes, they can defend at least the Rolex 24. Whether they can defend the entire thing, no. It's too big of a gap this year to do so.
I was very impressed with the GTD qualifying this year. It's the top 2 separated by 18,000 and the top 3 separated by 24,000. So because of that, I don't really see it as a shoo-in for Winward Racing to win this year, because the gaps are just so close between them. They're going to have to work a lot harder to maintain the pole that they had in qualifying in order to win the race on Sunday. My favourite score would be one of the Porsches to win the GTD, but we know the Mercedes, like Winward Racing, could be very, very quick, and they could show that that they can do it very, very well as well. With 22 cars on the grid this year, it's going to be difficult, but this is why I love Daytona with the multiple classes. It can go either way with this class, especially with how close the GTD class is this year in Daytona.
And next, we're going to look at some comments in the chat, our very busy chat room. And right here, Omi is saying that Dorian Penn is with Prima this year in Freca. So looking forward to seeing what she can do. Yeah. And also go Iron Dames. And people are letting us know where they're from. Hello from Barcelona, Hawaii, Scotland, Switzerland. And then how many laps before we see the inevitable GTP, GTD murder? I don't know how long we're going to see, but it's bound to happen at some point. Sometimes those prototype drivers can get very aggressive, and then we'll see the GT car, get punted off in the grass or in the wall. It's inevitable, so it'll definitely happen. And then this person says that you're watching from Portland, Oregon, right out there with Joe. Say you met Joe at the Grand Prix of Portland last year for IndyCar, and they say what a nice guy he is. Yeah, he definitely is. And they say let's see if the Lexus is going to light the fires on the last lap again this year. And Alan Rasmussen says hello from Denmark. And Joaquin says you're a lifelong Porsche supporter, but I kind of want everyone to win since there are so many manufacturers, and that keeps the series alive. You say greetings from Madrid, Spain. And then Eckers, and hoping that Triarci Competizione can do it in GTD. Thank you all so much for your comments. And then Roland says, also, are we actually going to get a full 24 hours? Yeah, I believe we are looking at the weather forecast. There's only like a 16% chance of rain overnight. So it's Florida, so we're probably going to see those pop-up showers any time. So do not be surprised if we get a shower, but I think most of the race is going to be in dry run and we're going to be perfectly fine. And also we have a viewer right here from North Carolina where I am. So happy to have you guys watching. And now getting back to what we were talking about, Winwood Racing. I think we're going to see someone else emerge as a top contender, but I would not be surprised if Winwood finds a way to win again. It seemed like it's right in their name, right? Winwood Racing, winning races. And plus they're starting on the front row in GTD anyway. So they're right up near the front, and they have the same three drivers, that they dominated with last year. Full season drivers: Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Andy Donchis back as well, and Lucas Auer got the Mercedes factory driver up in there. And I also want to say it's so good to see Lucas Auer back at this event, because remember a couple of years ago he had a really hard crash leading up to the Rolex 24, and he was injured and wasn't able to participate in the race. So really happy to see him back. But yeah, I think Winwood Race is going to have his hand full, but I will not be surprised to see them go out there and win. And after a disappointing year one in GTD Pro, we already mentioned them. It seems like Multimatic Motorsports has found something over the offseason with the Ford Mustang GT3. In 2024, they finished a disappointing 6th and 10th in the Drivers' Championship, then decided to completely rebuild its driver lineup heading into 2025. Mike Rockefeller is the only returning full-time driver from last year, and Ford's trust in him was rewarded because he took the number 64 Ford Mustang GT3 to the pole. And after teaming up with Harry Tinknell last year, his new co-driver for the full season is Seb Priaulx, and NASCAR driver Austin Cindric fills in as a substitute driver because Ben Barker suffered an off-track injury. And with the number 64 Ford starting on the pole, Multimatic locked out the GTD Pro front row as the number 65 Ford qualified second. Christopher Mies and Frederick Vervish are in for the full season, and Dennis Olsen for the Enduros. Meanwhile, the former Ford GTD Pro drivers Tinknell and Joey Hand are competing with Gradient Racing in GTD to help out a Ford customer team. Jess, are you surprised to see how much progress the Ford Mustang GT3 has made since last year's Rolex 24? Because remember, last year, it seemed like they had a parachute on the back of that thing, and not parachute, like an anchor, because they were really struggling out there.
I was very happy that the Ford Mustang GT3s did absolutely fantastic on Thursday in qualifying. I won 2. I was not expecting it, but I think I'm really, really relieved they did not have the best Daytonas last season. 2020 was the last time they actually won one of the cars, and that was during COVID. And that wasn't held during January. It was held center stage after the F1 in the summer. So we can imagine the conditions were so much different compared to what we see now. So maybe the Ford Mustang was probably suited to that type of conditions compared to what we're seeing usually in January, February time. But I have some high hopes for them because it's a much colder track. They got a car that's very competitive. Mike Rockefeller did absolutely very well. They were very strong. And if they can keep up the impressive qualifying form they had in the race, they can definitely prove the doubters wrong.
110% as well. Ford, I think, in qualifying did show us what they'd lost in previous years, and they sort of withdrew from everything else, didn't they? The actual Ford GT program, they teamed back up with Mustang, and it was good. It's looking good, and I'm going to say I will not put them off the podium. I think we could see the Mustangs come back up there. Ford looks quite better than what they have done in recent years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, kudos to Multimatic for performance for going to work and getting this car where they feel like it should be. And remember, it showed up last year. It looked so nice, sound really nice. Roaring around on the bank and at Daytona. But unfortunately, sometimes with these programs is you don't really know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you'll see a team a manufacturer bring a brand new car and it's successful right away. While other times, there's a lot of teething issues they have to work through. And I think Ford had a really tough time at the beginning of last season, but we saw towards the end, they found something at the end, getting some podium towards the end of the 2024 season. And now, it seems like they're right in the thick of it. Maybe this could be a preview of what we could see all throughout the year, with Multimatic Motorsport having both Fords in contention to win this race. And I think they have a really strong driver lineup. And good to see Harry Tinknell, coming in for Daytona, and Joey Hand. I think it's been confirmed that he's going to run the Michelin Endurance Cup races with Great Racing in GTD. Ford doing a great job supporting his customer team there. And I guess upward and onward for the Ford Mustang GT3 program, because incredible progress. They have a lot to be proud of. And for the first time since 2019, someone not named Ben Keating will start on the pole in LMP2. Instead, United Autosports' Dan Goldberg set a quicker time than Keating's PR1 Madison Motorsports prototype. Pole sitter Goldberg will have a strong group of co-drivers in Paul DiResta, James Allen, and Rasmus Lin. For Keating, he'll be doing his double duty again by competing in two different classes, PR1's LMP2 car and the Trackhouse by TF Sport Corvette in GTD Pro. So, Josh, do you think Keating has a better chance of winning an LMP2 or GTD Pro?
That's such a hard question. Can't he do both? That would be absolutely hilarious. He's trying to say where's Ben Keating going to finish in which class? He's like trying to pick between, would you like, I can't believe it's not butter, or butter? They're both the same thing, but one is better than the other. And I would say that the GTD would be better than the LMP2 in terms of the fact that in LMP2 there are so many drivers and teams ready to jump on the back of that PR1, as we saw in qualifying. United Autosports just pipping them. If they've got that pace throughout the entire race, as I said earlier, then Ben Keating's not going to stand a chance. Well, compared to GTD, where it's actually going to be more of an hands-on physical fight, which is what we all love, that's where I think Ben's going to go, yeah, I'm more of a racer here. I can get my elbows out against some old guys that he has raced against throughout his entire career. And as Doing Cool Stuff says, never mistake Ben Keating as an amateur driver. Just because he's another full-time job doesn't mean he's an amateur. Man is a living legend. I agree. He is not amateur. He is full-on legend. And first time he hasn't been on pole in LMP2, sign of things to come. I'll say he'll do better in GTD. But if he does both, at the end of the 24 hours, I'll make sure to be the first person to try and get a question for him wearing two watches.
Having two hats, I believe, Josh, as well. You'll be like, how on earth can he drive two cars at once?
One-on-one.
I mean, it was a tough call because the cars that he's driving in, they're really competitive this year. But I have to agree with Josh because the GT3 Pro are more competitive, the gaps are closer, and anyone could be up there, especially with both the GTD categories. As long as you don't make too many mistakes, I think Ben's going to be all right. I'm proud that Ben gets to drive two cars in one race. I don't know how he does it. I'm excited to see how Carl Larson does. Hopefully he does the double this year, fingers crossed, because we almost got robbed last year by that because of the rain that hit both Indy and Charlotte last year. But I think, in my opinion, it's got to be. He has a bit more of a chance for the GTD Pros than the LMP2s, because the LMP2s, there's a lot more people that potentially could win this race compared to obviously Ben Keating.
Yeah, Jez, definitely have to agree with you there. And in regards to the Kyle Larson thing, it's already been confirmed he's going to be doing a double again with Aaron McLaren. So hopefully the weather will cooperate this year so we can see, a real double take place rather than, Stafford ended 500 and end up missing the whole Coca-Cola 600. So fingers crossed, Mother Nature is going to get that done. But the reason why I think Ben Keating probably has a better chance of winning in GTD Pro than LMP2 is because in GTD Pro, I think Ben Keating's probably going to spend most of his time in the LMP2, and in GTD Pro, he's going to do the bare minimum, drive time you need to score points, and then just let the 3 pros handle it. And not to say Ben Keating's not a pro, as you were saying in the chat, doing cool stuff. Ben Keating's not really an amateur driver. He may be an amateur driver rating wise, but he's very quick. He's one of the fastest gentleman drivers in the world in sports car racing. So I think he'll do the minimum there in the track house by TF Sport Corvette. And then he's going to let Connor Zillett, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Scott McLaughlin do the heavy lifting there. And I think those drivers, going to do a great job. And that's probably why he's going to have a better chance of winning that class. But wouldn't it be quite a flex in victory lane if Ben Keating can wear 2 Rolex watches winning? Yeah, that would be awesome. And last but not least, the GTP class has 12 entries this year, and it could be anyone's race. The BMWs and the Acuras seem to be the favorites entering the race, with the defendant overall race winning manufacturer Porsche right in the thick of it. Cadillac hasn't really had the pace since the Roar before the 24 preseason test, and IMSA gave them more power for race weekend. Then we've seen some flashes from the Lamborghini GTP program, but it feels like that's still a way to go in developing this car. And speaking of Lamborghini, one of their drivers, Marco Bortolotti, classed in qualifying with Meyer-Shank Racing's Tom Blomqvist. While both drivers were on flying laps, Blomqvist tried to go underneath Bortolotti entering NASCAR 1, but Bortolotti left no room as Blomqvist went below the bank, and both were side-by-side through NASCAR 2 and down the backstretch before giving way entering the Le Mans chicane. However, this unplanned battle in qualifying ended up killing their laps and prevented both drivers from improving their starting position. Jess, do you believe anyone was at fault here, or just 2 drivers going all out for the pole?
I would say my answer, but Josh has to go soon to prep for JB Motorsports stream, so I'll let Josh take his answer first.
Thank you, Jess. I was thinking it was dying at the line. It was rain coming down harder. I don't think they saw each other in terms of, well, obviously we know who saw who, but I think it was just a very much a tit-for-tat situation. They were both pulled out of Sector 2's fastest lap time. They weren't going for the pole position times. I think it was just a cheeky, hello, yeah, I'm here. I'm going to spoil this lap because we're going to have this all throughout the 24 hours. And the rain was getting worse in that sector anyway. It was starting to come down heavy, and they were still on slick tyres. As we even saw in the Mazda race, by the time they came out, it had started to dry up. So we had them on wets, then had to go, some of them, to change over to slicks and nearly lose a lap. But yeah, it was all pretty much just fun of the game.
All right, Joshua, before you...
Josh. Sorry, carry on.
All right, Josh, before we have to let you go get started with your coverage on JB Motorsports, share your pick a winner, then we'll let you bounce and get ready for your 24 hours of coverage.
I'm going to say pick a winner. It's going to be the 24 BMW. I've got a really good feeling. If that car breaks down within the first 3 hours, it's not my fault. But I'm going to go stick my head on the line and say it's going to be the 24 BMW. And if I'm wrong, I'll never do IMSA again. I'll leave it all to Jackson.
Okay, Josh, thank you so much. And for all our viewers, head over to JB Motorsports if you want an alternative viewing option for the Rolex 24 and watch Josh and his amazing team called the Rolex 24 at Daytona live all 24 hours. So thank you so much, Josh. And now, Jess, take it away with your answer.
Yeah, I'll be joining Josh very shortly on the JBM broadcast, but I'll let himself and obviously our very own Jackson take through the coverage until I join. I remember Josh going crazy on our watch long, and when these 2 drivers were going all out, it looked like we were commentating on the actual race. It was crazy. We were like, no, don't fight for position. Just do a lap. But one of them was going to be compromised either way. But they didn't have enough time, did they? There was a red flag. They didn't have enough time to prepare on, like, right, who's going to go where and when. And we know with any qualifying situation in any form of motorsport, they want to be the last out to get the best of the track conditions. So that's what both cars were trying to do. Maybe if one team during their outlap created a gap and slowed down to create a gap for the other team, that would have been a problem. But there were quite a few cars wanting to do the same thing. So I think it was just no one was at fault. It was just both of them were one place and one time, and they were very, very unlucky.
Yeah, for sure. And now let's catch up on the chat room a little bit. If we can display those comments on the screen. Doing cool stuff, says all 24, man is a beast. Yeah. Josh doesn't really get much sleep all throughout the motorsport season. He does so many different things, and it's just incredible to see the program just you guys have over there at JB Motorsports. So inspirational, seeing so many people who are passionate about motorsports and who are willing to sacrifice sleep to put on this show for the motorsports fans watching all around the world. And got another comment there saying Keating with those Kiwi aces, as well as Connor Zilisch, is a heck of a lineup. And Bob Pockers from Fox Sports, just confirmed that Connor Zilisch is going to be starting the car. Big week for Connor Zilisch. He's going to be making his NASCAR Cup Series debut later this year at COTA. We're going to talk about it this coming week on Grid Tonight and what it means for Connor Zilisch's racing career. Yeah, you're one of the next great stars of motorsports, and he's only just turned 18. Several months ago. Just so amazing to see all this talent coming up through the ranks. And getting back to what we were talking about, Jess, I think it was just an unfortunate racing incident between Blomqvist and Bortolotti. They just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was just unfortunate circumstances. And I was reading the SportsCar 365 notebook from qualifying day, the great John DeGeese over there, and all the great work him and his team always do. He got quotes from both Blomqvist and Bortolotti, and based on what they said about it, they were basically just shrugging it off, like that it is what it is. That was unfortunate that it happened. Kill that laps, and we're just gonna move on. It doesn't seem like that this is anything that's going to carry over into the race if they're both in the same car late in the race and need that position. I don't think we're going to see them, like one driver, not giving any room or like shoving one off. It seemed like that both understand that, that they were just victims of circumstance here, and it was really nothing there. And Josh brought up the point, it was also sprinkling as well, and there was a sense of urgency. But if Blomqvist wasn't held up by Bortolotti, it would have been interesting to see if he could have, taken a shot at the pole there, because we know he's certainly more than capable of getting up there, or even the Lamborghini improving its position as well. And in the end, the number 24 BMW M Team RLL Hybrid V8 of Dries Van Thor won the pole for the 63rd Rolex 24 Daytona over former BMW factory driver Nick Yellowly, who's now an Acura factory driver. Van Thor's pole winning lap was 1:33.895, and he'll be sharing a car with Philip Ing, ex-Formula One driver Kevin Magnussen, and Raffaele Marciello. Like Multimatic's Ford Mustang GTD Pro program, Team RLL found something down the stretch last year, and that carried over to the BMW with a strong run in qualifying. Unfortunately, the other BMW GTP car, the number 25, had a technical issue and did not set a time. And before I get to the next question, want to give a big thank you to Amber JJ for the $20 donation here. Really appreciate you for supporting us, Amber. I know you've been a viewer for Grid Network a long time, and we truly appreciate you and everyone who continues to support Grid Network. And if you're a new viewer watching us here at Grid Network for the very first time, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. We're continuously updating the homepage there, so you can always find our most recent show, and also some of our smaller segments as well. And also in the video description, we have a recap of last year's grid ranking if you want to learn more about that. And now just getting back to the pole winning car, Dries Van Thor. Are you encouraged by BMW's pace, and do you believe in their potential to be in contention for the win at the end of 24 hours?
I am really, really happy that the BMW got pole. We were expecting it to be the championship winning brand / car from last season, the Porsche Motorsport, but it was the BMW. And of course, I am a bit biased because obviously K-Mag racing for that team. Even though he didn't qualify for that, in qualifying, he's still in that team. But with Van Door, who did set the lap, was absolutely fantastic. So I am encouraged, and it's going to be very exciting to see a lot more GTPs absolutely challenge for the overall win. But it's going to be quite tough for them. You saw the other 25 car, as you were saying, have technical issues. It was actually high voltage issues. They didn't just suffer it in the qualifying session. There were a few teams, such as the Porsches, who suffered it from the pre-event Raw test last weekend, the Raw before the 24, and the Porsche met with a variety of different representatives from different manufacturers as well, and they wanted to try and overcome the problem, which was quite interesting. And there were one of them were trying to investigate the problem, didn't understand why there wasn't why there's a problem this year, because the hybrid issues were not much of a problem in the second season of the GTP era in 2024. So they really are probably going to start investigating on those high voltage issues a lot more. I think the main other teams that suffered those issues were the JDC Miller Motorsport and Proton Competition. So I really hope they don't have those problems as well. We don't know whether Acura, Cadillac, or Lamborghini have been affected by it, but again, we'll have to wait and see. But I think BMW are going to have a chance. Let's just hope the one that put it on the pole does not have any high voltage issues with their battery at all. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge upset. In particular, Formula One fans who love Kevin Magnussen, Kobe.
Yeah, we'll touch a little bit more on those high voltage issues in just a little while. But if you take the high voltage issues and reliability concerns out of it, I think BMW is in the best position, that they've ever been in to win this race overall. And, just shows the testament, the BMW continuing to work on this car and improve. I remember when they first brought this car out along with the other GTPs, they were way off the pace, in their first Rolex 24 with this car, and to see where they are now is just incredible. Be able to win the pole, overhaul the entire driver lineup. I already mentioned the new BMW drivers this year earlier in the show. It shows BMW is all in. They want to win, and they want to win now. So I think if you're a BMW fan or with Team RLO, you have to be very excited about your chances taking the pole, starting up front. You get a clean track at the start, and you'll see where the cars fall in the number 25 BMW. Unfortunately, they had that issue in qualifying, but luckily this is a 24-hour race, so it doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you finish. Yeah, it might be frustrating to start at the back of the GTP field, but hey, better to happen in qualifying than in the race. And I think that the number 25 is just going to continue to move forward. So don't be surprised if they're also in contention as well. And now it's time for a little rapid fire with some news and notes. We're going to bring Joe Samniego back on for this, and take it away, Jess.
Yes, indeed. We love our rapid fire situations. We're going to do that right now. We're going to stick with the GTP class. One of the underdog teams fighting for the overall win is the number 85 JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche, which features Pascal Wehrlein and Jimmy Bruni. Of course, Pascal Wehrlein doing very well in the first race in Formula E, where we were at South Paulo until we had that injury, and then he just missed out on the win in Mexico City. The interesting thing about Bruni is he decided not to bring him back as a factory driver, but he's still going to be full-time driver in the Porsche GTP car. It'll be interesting to see what you think of that in the chat. They'll be starting in 5th place, number 85 Porsche. And Joe, starting with you, does Bruni have something to prove to Porsche after losing his factory driver status?
Anytime you lose your factory driver status, you have a point to prove. He will love to go out there, show what Porsche's missing out, try to get something else going for him, but he is definitely got chip on shore. He is motivated.
Yeah, definitely. Jimmy Bruni's been very impressive these last couple of weeks, at the Roar, and then throughout the weekend. I think he does have a lot to prove, starting 5th. You consider JDC Miller Motorsports an underdog team. They're not the factory Penske Porsches. They're one of the customer teams. And if you can go toe-to-toe and even outdo the factory team, that's going to be a very big deal for that organization. So I think Jimmy Bruni's been around for a long time. I remember when he was a Ferrari factory driver, he was one of the fastest that was on a Ferrari GT car, and then he moved to Porsche. And once he moved to Porsche, it really, honestly, in my opinion, didn't really seem like the best fit, because he didn't seem as quick as he was in the past, but he still ended up getting some time in the prototype. But obviously Porsche felt like it was best to part ways with him. But what better way to part ways than to continue driving a Porsche? It's basically the same role he was. Well, he's gonna be running full time this year with JDC Miller Motorsports. Yeah, so he'll be able to prove himself all year long. And if he does extremely well, maybe Porsche think, maybe we should have kept him on as a factory driver.
It's like with any motorsport series, if a non-factory team does better than the factory team will need to probably start looking at themselves, really. So it'll be interesting to see how Bruni does in that situation. So Action Express Racing will look a lot different this year compared to previous seasons, with El Bamba becoming the new co-driver for the full season alongside Jack Aiken in the number 31 Wheel Engineering Cadillac. I apologise if I said that wrong. They also have Frederick Vesti as the endurance driver for most of the season. He's not doing Daytona. Felipe Drogovic is doing Daytona. We know how quick he is with his Formula One FP1 sessions. We also got Pipo Durrani, who's beginning a new adventure as a Genesis factory driver, which is very exciting. So glad to see he's got a chance. And it's entered this year's Rolex 24 in GTD with DXCT's Racing Corvette. And we have to say, Action Express standards, it did not go well for IMSA in 2024. It was a down year for them. Joe, starting with you again. Will Action Express bounce back this year after horrific 2024? And will they ever find victory lane again?
I think they'll find victory lane. It's just a matter of putting together a good race, having some things go your way. Overall, we've seen this class. There's a lot of hard racing, a lot of potential for accidents to occur, mistakes. They can put it together. They'll find victory lane. I'm very confident of the capabilities of this team.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. Action Express, it was really weird last year seeing how things turned out, because we're used to seeing Action Express right in the thick of it. But last year seems like, they kind of taken a step back. I know they had some personnel changes, as long, with the driver change with Pipo Durrani leaving. It seemed like Action, and also the last couple of years, they've also struggled in the 24 hours of Le Mans, which is to be, expected. They're not really, in the World Endurance Championship full time, so it's completely different style of racing. Just like if you saw one of the World Endurance Championship teams, come over here just for a one-off at Daytona, that would probably struggle. Like even the great Toyota Gazoo race, and if Toyota came over and ran the Rolex 24, they would probably have a difficult time as well. It just shows two different races, two different sides of the globe. Just a lot going on. But yeah, I think Earl Bamber and Jack Aiken can find some success this year and potentially try to get Action Express back on top. But, the Cadillacs are down on power. I think Cadillac can still win this race, but, they're definitely going to be at a disadvantage compared to the others. And before we move on to the next question, just want to answer this question in the chat room right here about who is doing the race commentary. And for international viewers, we're straight from the IMSA radio website. It says you're gonna have people like Ryan Marine, Johnny Palmer, Peter Mackey, or Peter McKay, Joe Bradley, Nick Damon, Jamie Howe, and John Hondoff, on IMSA Radio. And then if you're here in the United States to see the NBC and Peacock side of the broadcast, you're gonna have Lee Diffie leading the play-by-play. Then you're also gonna have Calvin Fish and Townsend Bell in the booth, and then but also later in the race, gonna have Dave Burns and Brian Till also up in there as well. And then on the Peacock pit box, they're going to have Dale Jarrett and Marty Snyder. And then also going to have James Hinchcliffe. Actually,
when he's not racing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Parker Kligerman as well going to be joining the broadcast. And then you got Kevin Lee, Dylan Welch, Kim Kuhn, Matt Yoakum, and Chris Wildner also going to be serving on pit road there. So that's who your IMSA broadcast team is going to be this year for the Rolex 24.
It looks like a very strong broadcasting team, so make sure you do check that out at 1:30 in Eastern with lights out at 1:40. So Sullivan split up Jack Hawksworth and Ben Barneycoat, with Barneycoat staying in the GTD Pro in the number 14 Lexus, and his new co-driver will be Aaron. Now, Hawksworth moves GTD in the number 12 Lexus alongside Parker Thompson. Now that's going to be a very interesting lineup. But Kobe, do you see these changes improving both of these programs, or is that going to hinder them?
Yeah, this was an interesting change. I honestly did not see this come. I remember when we got this news and talked about it on Grid Tonight, we were all in shock. I know our own Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance, and that he said he was really caught off guard because he thought the partnership of Hawksworth and Barnacote, going extremely well. But, last year they, weren't really competitive compared to the others in their class. So I guess Vassar Sullivan, Lexus felt it was best, to make a change. Because even if you do have a long-term partnership with a co-driver at some point, it's just run its course, and maybe they feel like this new pairing will make their GTD Pro and their GTD program stronger.
Yeah, it was a surprise, but overall, I think the change will improve both programs. Just a little bit of new chemistry going forward. See what's going to happen. I'm very excited to see the potential of Aaron, especially teaming up with them.
I think Aaron is going to be very, very exciting. I agree. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that car in the GTD Pro and the GTD. So this year's Grand Marshal for the Rolex 24. A lot of you will know her from the W Series and Indy Next last year was Jamie Chadwick. She's been a really big driver in the Indy Next scene in Road America. She scored a historic win last year. It was so close between her and her Andretti teammate. And after exploring potential opportunities in IndyCar, she decided not to return to Indy Next. And it seems that her single-seater race career is up in the air a little bit. However, she is going to be doing a bit of endurance racing in the LMP2 this year in the European Le Mans Series. However, it will be interesting to see, Joe. Will she be interested in competing in next year's Daytona 24?
It makes sense. I mean, she's going to go to sports car racing, United States fan base. She's known it from her time in IndyCar. I see it as just a simple move. She's going to do Le Mans. Now she's going to go to Daytona in 2026, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that would be a natural move for Jamie Chadwick. It's interesting seeing her career path. Trying to get into Formula 3, Formula 2 on the road to F1. Unfortunately, that hasn't worked out, so she decided to move to the United States and focus on Indy Next. I thought she was doing a great job and making progress. And I thought if she returned this year, she'd be one of the championship favorites. But she felt like she could really learn more in Indy Next and wanted to go to IndyCar. But unfortunately, all the seats are really taken up. Only got one Dale Coyne seat ready to go, so it doesn't look like that's going to be Jamie Chadwick. So she's decided to shift to endurance racing. We don't know if her open wheel career is officially over now, but I'm sure that she'll find some success this year in the European Le Mans Series and see where that takes her. And also she's linked to the team, that's going to be filled in the Genesis Factory racing program in 2026. So maybe she'll be in line for a Genesis Factory driver. She does well in LMP2, but yeah, we'll love to see her next year's Rolex 24.
So we'll see how Chadwick does in European Le Mans Series later on this year. So unfortunately, the lineup that we saw for Wayne Taylor Racing took a little bit turn for the worse. The number 40 Cadillac, of course, had announced recently that Alex Lynn would not race in Daytona due to an unfortunate illness. And despite, instead of having a fourth driver to replace Alex Lynn in the car, they decided to stick with a 3-driver lineup. And we know with 24-hour races, this could be quite problematic. Just because there won't be many breaks. But the lineup that we're seeing is Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz, and Camille Kobayashi. And I know my opinions on this, but I'll ask Joe and Kobe's opinion on this. Joe, did they make a mistake, Wayne Taylor Racing, by not replacing Alex Lynn, or will they be fine with racing the Daytona 24 with a 3-driver lineup?
I think they'll be fine. I mean, it's going to be a grind. No doubt about that. But they made the decision early enough, in my opinion, so the drivers could get conditioned and ready for this. It would have been a huge mistake if Lynn was announced yesterday or the day before he couldn't make it and then they'll go through. I think they would really try to find a 4-4 driver, but I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and I just want to start off by saying I'm sending my best wishes to Alex Lynn. Don't know what he's going through right now, but hope he's doing well. But for Alex Lynn, to be ruled out, ahead of the Roar before the 24 and well before the Rolex 24 weekend, that's something seems kind of serious. So I hope he's doing well. But Joe, I totally agree with the point you brought up. I think Wayne Taylor Racing did a good job, make this announcement early so their 3 drivers, can get used to the idea that it's just going to be the 3 of us, because I'm sure that, we're obviously planning for it to be 4 of them, but I don't think it's going to, make a major difference at all. I still think that Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz, and Kamui Kobayashi are more than capable of getting the job done at a 3-driver lineup instead of 4.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see there. And we did speak earlier about the high voltage system causing problems for BMW and Porsche, and they had to undergo multiple battery changes since arriving the track last week for testing. And like we were saying earlier, during the first year of GTP racing, there were also concerns there, but in 2024, it was absolutely fine. Luckily, it wasn't a worst case scenario. I said my thoughts about the high voltage issue earlier on, but Kobe and Joe, we would like to hear your thoughts. Are you concerned, Kobe, that this problem could create chaos in the race and uncertainty throughout?
I certainly hope not. I remember the first year of GTP when they debuted these hybrid systems that everybody was afraid that all the GTPs were going to fall out of the race and we see an LMP2 car win overall, but thankfully, that did not happen. Like you're saying, that would have been a worst case scenario, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to avoid a worst case scenario here. But yeah, I think that if this were to happen, it would obviously cause a lot of chaos and uncertainty, because you don't want to see a bunch of cars fall out of the race because of these high voltage issues. Hopefully the people who are in tune with this situation at Daytona or working on it remotely from back at wherever they're located, hopefully they'll be looking close into this to try to diagnose the problem, so we don't have all these high voltage. It would be such a shame to see so many drivers and teams fall out of the race because of something not of their doing. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that this won't be an issue that'll have a major impact on the race.
Fingers crossed. If there is going to be any issues, I anticipate about 8 or 9 hours into it, once we really start getting into uncharted territories for everybody. Again, it's been a while since we've had a lot of mileage racing action. I think is going to be any trouble potentially later on, particularly look at hour 8 and 9.
Yeah, that's when I'm about to go to sleep, hours 8 and 9. So if something happens when during the night when I wake up, I've got to be very, very shocked by it. So fingers crossed there's hardly any issues. But of course, Daytona, it's not just the IMSA series that is racing. We had the Michelin racing, but also a lot of people's favorite cars, the Mazda MX-5 were racing at Daytona this week, and the unthinkable happened. There was quite a lot of talk about it on social media recently. The push went wrong at the start, sent 2 cars into the outside tri-oval wall, which set off a very huge chain reaction, and there was a multi-car pile-up that collected a lot of cars. And it's not usual to see this in Daytona. We see this in NASCAR, where we saw collecting multiple cars there at the Super Speedway, at the Daytona 500, which will be coming very, very soon. I'm excited for that. But nobody expects to see this sort of pile-up in the Mazda MX-5s. Joe, what do you think of that huge pile-up with the Mazda MX-5s, and were you expecting it with that series of cars?
I've always been surprised with the Mazda MX-5 series. Such good, close racing, physical at times. It's unfortunate that we had this big, huge pile up, but I feel like that was just something that it was inevitable to happen. Hopefully the drivers learn from their mistakes. It won't happen again too often when we come back for the Mazda MX-5 Cup.
Yeah, it was a really weird weekend for the Mazda MX-5 Cup. People really look forward to this race all throughout the year. The Friday evening race, really weird, because had some rain in the air, started it was sprinkling, ending that night, didn't get the close finish that we thought we were going to see. And then, see this huge pile up. It was definitely surreal to see, a super speedway style wreck, you would see on a NASCAR race here at Daytona. And Mazda MX-5 Cup certainly didn't expect to see this at all. But like you're saying, hopefully, drivers learn from this. So when they come back again next year, some of them with even more experience, won't see anything like this happen at the start. I'm sure it's all very frustrating because this is the marquee event of the year for Mazda MX-5 Cup, and to get taken out like that in the big one at the start of the race, very frustrating situation, but definitely a wild video to see. If you haven't seen it already, definitely encourage you to go look it up.
Yeah, just before Daytona starts, because it's not going to be that long until the race kicks away at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Coverage on NBC for US viewers starts at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, so in around about 7 minutes time for the first hour. Then it switches to USA Network from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And then you have to get used to Peacock for the rest of the night up until noon Eastern on Sunday morning / afternoon. And then NBC will take you through all the way to the checkered flag with coverage ending at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can also watch all 24 hours on Peacock and IMSA TV or for anyone that wants to watch on YouTube, for international viewers, it's also on IMSA. We also got alternative commentary done by JB Motorsports. Also, thank you to Jason M for the $2 super chat. And he's already locked his pick a winner. And speaking of pick a winner, Kobe, it's time to hand it over to you.
It's time for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner. See if you can get your name on the board. We currently only have 2 up there right now. Still very early days. Let us know down in the chat room, either here live or later on replay. Who do you think is going to win the Rolex 24 overall in the GTP class? And Joe, kick it off with pick a winner. Who do you think will win overall?
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a surprise. It's Wayne Taylor Racing. I'm going with the number 40. I think they're going to pull off us a bit of a surprise win.
I was struggling to find out a suitable answer for this because I was a bit worried about the high voltage issues from the one who took the pole with the BMW. I think it's going to be the number 24 BMW still that's going to take the overall, and I'm just praying that they don't have the same issues. If they do, then I'm going to be very annoyed, and it's going to be the biggest commentator's curse of the century.
Yeah, and after a year away from IMSA competition, I think Myra Shank Racing is going to get the job done. But I'm not going to go with the 93. I'm going to go with the number 60 to get it done. Again, got the band back together. Tom Blomqvist, Colin Brown as well for the full season, and also got two IndyCar drivers, Scott Dixon and Felix Rosenquist. A really strong driver line as well. I think the number 60 is going to get the job done.
Going to be very interesting in the chat room. Also, I'm going with the number 6 Penske Porsche Motorsports car, and we want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Big thank you to everyone. Be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs. We'll be on the air after the race for the wrap-up show, and then, of course, we'll do it all over again with Grid tonight on Wednesday. Kobe will be on the air as we announce more programs as the racing season comes back. We'll be having more programs for Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, MotoGP, World Rally. Of course, they're underway. O'Shea leading right now. And, of course, the Grid Nurse Performance Index and the Grid Ranking right here on Grid Network TV. We know just got to get going, so we're going to head on out of the air for everyone again. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy this program because we do this for you, the fans, the viewers that love motorsports, and we're just thrilled that you joined us. For everyone at the Grid Network, Joshua Birch, who is already on his watch along, link in the video description. Jess Bell, who's going to be joining him. Kobe Lambeth for Grid Tonight, who'll be on there Wednesday. I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you, everyone. Again, enjoy the race. We'll see you next time.